welcome to the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life. My name is Kyle Case, and I'll be your host on this amazing journey as we attempt to help you get the most out of your life. Today's guest, Norman Calvo, is a former successful New York mortgage executive, a certified high-performance coach, podcast host, marathon runner, cyclist, and cabaret performer. 20 years ago, Norman weighed 247 pounds and had never considered himself a runner. At age 59, an employee challenged him to join her in training for the Brooklyn Half Marathon. What began as a simple invitation and a fitness goal became a life-changing journey. Since then, Norman has lost more than 70 pounds. He's completed 12 half marathons and the New York City Marathon itself, cycled around the big island of Hawaii, and continues to seek out new adventures all around the world. Norman also discovered a passion for singing in his 60s. After taking voice lessons on a whim, he eventually joined the Gotham rock choir, became part of a cabaret group, and has performed in sold-out solo cabaret shows in Manhattan. Norman's mission is to inspire others to stay active, embrace new challenges, and create a vibrant, meaningful third act filled with purpose, health, and joy. Norman, welcome to the show.
Kyle, thanks so much for having me here. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to the next half hour or so together.
Well,
It's great.
what a great intro. I mean, you've really done so many things, and I love the diversity of your activity. I think in so many ways you exemplify what we call the active life. So I'm
Sure.
also very much looking forward to this. But let's start with the running a little bit if we can. You
Sure.
spent the vast majority of your life, 60 years of your life, absolutely not considering yourself a runner.
Never
Just
did.
wasn't on your wasn't on your bucket list. It wasn't on your menu. Wasn't anything you were thinking about, but you did jump into it. Tell us how that happened.
It was just by chance, really. I mean, this is when I was really at 247 pounds, nearly 247. And I remember going up the subway stairs here in New York, getting winded, just those stairs. Of course, I had briefcases full of mortgage files with me at the time, but still, what 59-year-old is going to get winded just by going up a couple of flights of stairs? But that's what happened. And I had an employee, her name was Monica. She was doing marathons all around the world. I mean, Tokyo, Madrid, London, everywhere. And I came into the office one day and she had just come back from a run, from a jog. And I said, Monica, what's going on? Where were you? She was still in her jogging, whatever,
Right.
clothes
Yeah.
and things like that. Yeah. I was late in the day. And anyway, she said, oh, I just went for a, 8 mile jog or something like that. I
A
said, how?
mid-afternoon 8 mile jog, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. It happened to be a beautiful day here in Brooklyn. And I said, how do you do that, Monica? I told her specifically, I remember when I was in junior high school and they forced us to do all these long runs. I got super, super winded. Ever since then, I hated jogging. Oh, Norman, it's easy. If you train, you do this, you do that. Why don't you do it? And I said, are you out of your mind? Me? What? Do that? Yeah, I'll do it with you. I'll do it with you. I promise I'll do it with you. We'll jog together. We'll run together. We'll run the race together. I said, all right. Okay.
How do you turn down an invitation like that?
Yeah, you can't. You really can't. And it was unusual for me to say yes, but I said, okay, why not? Let me give it a try. And she set me up with New York Roadrunners Association to get the 12-week training course. I followed it perfectly, sometimes with her and sometimes just by myself. And we actually ran the whole race together. Of course, she was going much slower than she normally did because, she was a
Sure,
runner.
yeah.
But because I was a mortgage broker and in Brooklyn specifically, all of my realtors came out to cheer me on that day and my family. And, it was the greatest thing. I got had Calvo emblazoned across my chest and they go Norman, go Norman. Go. And it was just a thrill. Really, really fun.
I think you've touched on one of the most important aspects and elements that we see in senior sports, and that is community, tribe, support.
Yeah.
accidental or otherwise, you really kind of found yourself surrounded by people who loved you, supported you, wanted to see your success. And that is so important for each of us, sports or otherwise. It doesn't have to be sports. We're going to get into music for you in just a little bit.
Yeah.
Sports just happens to be one of the great ways that that can happen, but it doesn't have to be that way. But I love that aspect. Again, we see it all the time here at the games of community, support, working together, helping one another. It's really a pretty cool thing that we see in the sporting world.
Absolutely. I would never have done it without her. Never in a million years. And then about 2 years later, one of my other employees, who I didn't realize that he was actually jogging a little bit as well, he said, "Hey, Norman, you want to do the New York City Marathon? The full marathon, 26 miles."
Yeah.
His name was Joey. And Joey, we'll do it together. We'll do it together. And never in a million years would I have considered doing 26 miles by myself. Never, ever. But it worked.
Norman, one of the great things about your story in particular is that you started later than most people. And
Yeah.
I think there's such a powerful message there. It really is never too late to jump in and try something new.
Absolutely. And even if you're not good at it, that's what a lot of people are afraid of. They're afraid of embarrassment about not being good or not
Yeah.
being successful or things like that. But what do you got to lose when you're 60 or 70? So what have you got to lose? Who cares? It's not like I need a career in running or,
Right.
in singing. I'm not going to be Frank Sinatra either. So what's the big deal? Really? Yeah.
So you started out initially on an invitation from an employee, from a friend who was willing to, give you the support and the help that you needed. Same
Yeah.
thing with your marathon, but you've continued to run. What continues to be your motivation now that you've kind of got a few under your belt?
Well, at first it was, the adulation from my, colleagues in real estate attorneys and things like that. It was such a wonderful, wonderful thing. And then I said, okay, this was fun. I actually finished 13 miles and I couldn't believe that I did it, but it was fun. And then my sons and I, we'd gone camping or hiking somewhere. I don't remember. And all of a sudden I don't know how it came into my feed, my emails, but there was some solicitation about a half marathon in Miami. And I said, oh, okay, why not?
I got this thing figured out. Why not add
Yeah, well,
a little different scenery to the whole thing?
right. A little different scenery. But the Miami one, and I was always going with my wife for long weekends. We always enjoyed ourselves just on long weekends to these various places. So it turned out to be Miami. And then I happened to be from Seattle. So then it was Seattle. And I went there with my brother and sister in law and my wife. And then it was Philadelphia and San Antonio and this and that. And before you know it, it was 12 half marathons later. So exciting and fun. And it gave me a little break also from work or from just day to day life. Plus, it kept me really very fit. So that was the added bonus. Yeah.
That was the next thing I wanted to just touch on briefly. And numbers aren't important. That's not what we're talking about. It's about the overall wellness and the healthy aspect. But you did start out a place where you were overweight, 247 pounds, almost 250 pounds. You're looking great right now. Obviously, you say you've lost about 70 pounds.
Yeah.
What is it, do you think, that keeps so many of us from being able to work towards or achieve these physical transitions? What are we telling ourselves that's wrong?
Well, one of the things that it's what we're not understanding and not telling ourselves because, the pain of having to go for a jog or having to go for 20 miles or 5 miles or 2 miles even, the pain of that is nothing in comparison to the pain of open heart surgery.
Yeah.
And it's just nothing whatsoever. And what happens is that people want to have immediate pleasure over long-term pleasure.
Yeah.
And so the immediate pleasure of, having that extra cookie or bowl of ice
Donut,
cream
yeah.
or whatever it is,
Exactly. Oreos, whatever it is.
yeah, there's just no comparison to the pleasure of being fit, being healthy, and not having any medical issues when you get older. And when you're 59, or that's when I was, but even when you're 50 or 40, people should start much younger to get very, very healthy. They should always lead a healthy lifestyle. But you just don't know this. You don't, it's never in your head that that might happen to you. And so you kind of push it aside. You kind of know it. The medical establishment keeps telling us over and over and over again, but oh, that's not going to happen to me. But it may.
It's not a surprise to us, to any of us, that a healthy diet and exercise is good for us. We do know that. That's something that we know. But knowing that and converting that into action can be a challenge. And I mean, it is for all of us to a great degree. It can be very challenging for all of us. But you were able to do it. Was there a secret? Was there a mantra? Was it just a decision? Like you're really one of the success stories. So how does it
Yeah.
work for you?
I'm so super focused in everything that I do. And maybe that's just my own personality coming through. But when I did start that half marathon with Monica, it was the start of, oh, well, hey, I can go a couple of miles. I'll jog and walk and jog and walk and jog and walk. But that led me to, oh, well, I'm going to lose a little bit of weight. And then that led me to, oh, maybe I should try out this type of diet. And maybe I should do this. And maybe I should do that. And maybe I should go start hiking with my sons who were still living at home at the time. And oh, why not? Let's go on. Let's have an even greater adventure. So it was always just maybe I'll do this. And that one little step in the right direction leads you to that next little step. I mean, who would have known when I'm 59 that I'm going to do handstands at 72? I mean, that's absolutely insane, right? But but the little step
But here we are,
creates a
right?
bigger one. Here we are.
Yeah.
And it keeps on creating more and more opportunities and more steps along the way. Yeah.
Such an important lesson and such great advice. It isn't the giant leap. It's not from
Yeah.
9 and overweight to 63 and having lost 70 pounds or whatever. It's little incremental steps all along the way. That's just the way success works, whether that is sports, business, music, art, whatever it is. If
Everything.
it's the baby steps, a little bit along the way, one step leads to the other, one step at a time. That's how we get there. You mentioned hiking. I wanted to touch on that just a little bit. We've talked about the running. You've done a bunch of half marathons. You've done the marathon. You've done some cycling. You've done a lot of different things. But there are other things that you do. Hiking is one of those things. You also do a little bit of rappelling, I understand, which I think is
Yeah.
great. Tell
Scary
us
as all hell.
tell, tell us one of your favorite hiking slash rappelling slash outdoor experiences that you've had.
My son and daughter and I were in Utah near Arches National Park,
Yeah.
and so they arranged the whole thing. I paid for it, but they arranged the whole thing, and so and we have a guide? I don't remember if we had a guide or not. Yeah, we must have had a guide. Of course we did. But anyway, so we're hiking along this trail, going somewhere wherever we were going, and all of a sudden there's a drop off, a huge cliff. Now, I didn't even know what rappelling was at the time. I had no idea. So I looked at, how are we getting there? Oh, we're going to rappel downwards.
Down a rope. Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to say and this is a podcast, so I'm not going to say what I really said to them. I have a video of that repelling action because my daughter came down first, right? And I was scared out of my wits, but I made it, and I practically threw up at the bottom. It was just beyond belief, scary as all hell,
Yeah.
but it worked. It worked. It actually worked. He instructed us how to do it and all this kind of stuff. But ever since then, I've done it 3 other times, and okay. I mean, this is safe enough. You got to take your precautions, but but it's the adventure and excitement that really is thrilling. It really is amazing. Yeah.
And I've done a little bit of rappelling myself, and everything you said is true. The first time is terrifying, and then you learn a little more about it. You learn to trust your equipment, but it is that first time, and you've really been a great example of being willing to step outside of your comfort zone, try something new, something you've never done before, something that many people, including yourself, would consider difficult. What is it about doing difficult things that you have found that keeps you young and active and vibrant and excited about life?
I'm not a scientist. That is a great question, Kyle, but I'm not a scientist at all. But I got to say that from a physical perspective and maybe even a mental perspective, what happens when you're willing to take on these additional challenges is something I know that new neural pathways are created in your brain. It has to be. For me to be able to do a handstand, everything, muscles, brain, everything's got to work together to be able to do it. And without those new neural pathways that are affecting your muscles and affecting all parts of your body, it's just not going to happen. So it's the learning experiences, the challenge, and the learning experiences that keep me going. And when I look at myself in the mirror, I mean, my trainer the other day said, "Hey, Norman, we're going to use you as the poster boy, the 72-year-old poster boy for the gym." Because the way I look now, if I took off my shirt, which I'm not going to do, absolutely, but I mean, it's incredible the transformation if you just keep on a standard regular diet. But it's not just looking good, it's feeling good, it's mentally being aware and acute and just focus that you can do so many things if you apply yourself to standard principles of health. And that's what keeps me going, really.
Well, and I love that. I think that's so important. And again, back to that concept of just a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
jump from one thing to, incredible, massive success. It's all little steps. You said a couple of times alluded to the handstand. Tell us a little bit about handstanding. How'd you get into it? 72 years old. I would think most people would think that's not a thing, but you're in the middle of it. Tell us a little
Yeah,
bit about your
I'm
life.
in the middle of it. I mean, one of my trainers a few years ago suggested that I do it. And I said, "Really, Ilya, really? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll
Late 60s,
practice.
early 70s. Are you sure?
Yeah, we'll keep on. So I said, okay. I mean, it was the same thing as, okay, it's a challenge. It's something unusual. People normally don't do it so much, but he said it'll be good for you. We'll be safe. We'll do this. We'll do that. And so I dropped it after a while because it was kind of like too much. And then
Yeah.
I got my trainer at the gym and an online trainer to help me. I said, why not? I mean, I did the marathons. I did the bicycle around Hawaii. I did this. I did that. I hiked out of the Grand Canyon as well. And so it's just, okay, let me give it a try. So now I'm continuing and continuing. And it's just a, it's a challenge because people think, why are you doing that? My son-in-law said, Dad, why are you doing that? I said, because it's fun. And you've got to do things that are fun and interesting. It's not just the challenge, it's the excitement of accomplishing something that you know is extraordinarily difficult. And that's what's fun about it.
And there really is huge satisfaction in that. I think if there is one lesson that we need to learn as human beings going through life, it is that we can do hard things.
Yeah,
It's hard. It's in the name. It's in the phrase right there. There
it's
are hard
great.
things. There are hard things, but we
Yeah.
can do them. And again, like you've said so many times already, it's incrementally, small steps, baby steps. I want to talk about this concept. A lot of your personal breakthroughs. You had a very successful career,
Yep.
mortgage broker in New York City, a lot of success. But a lot of your personal breakthroughs have come after the success of a business career.
Hmm.
Talk a little bit about that concept, and why do you feel that it is that maybe we've been framing retirement incorrectly, I think. Uh, maybe you agree with that. Like, talk a little bit about why you feel like the breakthroughs came through and how others could do the same thing. You say it's the third act. Let's call it that. How
Let's
do we
just,
have a successful third act?
you've got to have the mindset of wanting to grow beyond where you are now. And that's so challenging because most of the people just, you know, when we're younger, we always have these career goals or these, financial goals or things like that. And it's part of society. That's what society determines we should all do, whether we buy into it or not. But generally, people buy into it. But the problem is that we've also bought into the fact that retirement is rest. Retirement is a cruise, sitting on the beach. All the advertisements that you see for older people, they're not climbing out of the Grand Canyon. They're not doing handstands. They're not running marathons. They're doing relaxing type things.
Yeah.
And we kind of buy into that, but you've got to be able to say to yourself, well, wait a minute, is that who I really want to be, or is there something else in store for me at this point in time in my career? Now, fortunately for me, I had a successful business. I was able to save a lot of money, and I finally said to myself after that first marathon, maybe there is a little bit more. Maybe there's something beyond work that is far more interesting, far more exciting. I continued work. I only retired last week, actually. It was last week. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. but but people don't, they forget what interested them when they were younger, and they spent so many years concentrating on business, financial goals, and raising kids and whatever, that they've forgotten to have fun. They've
Yeah.
forgotten what it is, what life could really be. And they need permission to have fun when they're 65. It sounds crazy, but they need to give themselves a life. That's
Yeah.
really what's going on.
I think that's so true. There are studies and research that does back it up as well. Ken Dykewald is he's the man who coined the age wave and the silver tsunami. He's been studying aging for all of his career. He's now in what would be considered retirement age, and he's definitely not slowing down. He's got so much purpose in his life. You have experienced that yourself. We know about the blue zones, the different blue zones around the world. Those people continue to live long, healthy, active lives because they have a sense of purpose. And I do think that purpose and fun in a lot of cases can be and should be interchangeable. I think you're right on the right track there. We talked about it at the beginning of the show. I want to get to it. Let's talk about music. We've talked about the sports, the activity, the handstands, the running, all that kind of stuff. Amazing stuff. But
Yeah.
you also decided to jump in with both feet into a brand new endeavor, which was singing and music. How did you get into that?
It was a crazy, crazy, wild, kind of like happenstance. It was just fortuitous. I had a couple of opera singers, and they were mortgage applicants. They happened to be opera singers here in New York. It was still at the time when we were filling out mortgage applications by hand in front of the people. Right.
Right.
Normally nowadays it's all
All
online, but
digital.
yeah, all digital. But we were filling it out together, and they said to me, the wife said to me, Norman, you have such a phenomenal voice. You must be a terrific singer.
And let me just say, I agree, Norman. You have a
Oh,
great voice. You have a great
thank,
voice.
thank you. Thank you. Okay. So came out of nowhere, but yeah, thank you. And I said, no, Sarah, I can't sing a note for the life of me. It's just not. Oh, well, then you must be doing voiceovers, right? I said, Sarah, I'm just a mortgage broker. I do mortgages all day, all night. That's it. Well, it turned out that she was a singing teacher at the Brooklyn Academy of Music, which is right down the street from me in Brooklyn, from my office. And after the mortgage application, she said, "Norman, you want to take singing lessons?" Now, like a year and a half, maybe 2 years after that first marathon. I was already
Okay.
60. I was already 62. And I, okay, I'd done the Miami half, and I started thinking, well, maybe there is something more.
I've already
Why
done
not?
some hard things. Yeah, why
Right.
not?
Why not? During lunch, my lunch hour, I would go down. It was only 4 blocks away. We'd have our lesson. She'd plunk a few notes and say, sing this note. And I, la, 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 blah. Had no clue. It took months. It took months. But one of my realtor friends actually was in the Gotham rock choir. And I didn't know it at the time, but because we don't speak about singing when you're a mortgage broker and real estate, we don't.
It's just
But
used for.
but yeah, my company was giving a Christmas party down the street one year. I think it was a year later. And we were talking about singing, and I had no idea that he was a singer as well. He said, Norman, you got to join this choir. You got to do that. What? Can barely carry a tune, barely. Don't worry, they don't care. They need men. Go for it. So I tried out, and I got into the choir, of course. And one thing led to the next. I was awful and horrible, But once again, Kyle, it was fun. It was challenging. It was fun. The memorization of the lyric of the verses and all the songs was interesting, exciting. It was just a lot of fun. So I said, okay, I'll continue. I'll do this. I'll do that, and that led to a cabaret group, which led to my one man show. Yeah, yeah, it was
So
fun.
I do want to talk about that transition as we kind of wrap things up here.
Yeah,
You've talked about the fun aspect, the purpose driven, the willingness and the ability to try new things. Talk about and tell us, was it a difficult transition from being in a big choir where, let's be honest, you can hide a little bit behind some of the other voices if you need to. If you can't hit that high note, you just kind of lip sync a little bit as you go along until you're able to hit this. How I like that. That's just the beauty and the advantage of being in a choir, certainly. But then collectively, you make this beautiful thing together.
yeah.
There is a little bit of a jump between that and stepping out on a stage all by yourself to do a one man show. um, was it an easy transition? Was it a scary transition? How did that work for you?
Well, my very first solo was like I was out of my wits. I mean, I was sweating profusely. I didn't sing it correctly. We had the opportunity in the choir to audition for one line in the song "Let It Be" by the Beatles. One
Okay.
line.
Yeah.
I auditioned for that very first line, and with Sarah, my singing teacher, we practiced like 1,000 times, over
Yeah.
and over and over again. And I stood there. It was a Christmas concert, and there were like 150 people in the audience, my wife, my kids, my business associates. And if I tell you I screwed up so royally, Kyle, so bad, I couldn't even sing the line at the beginning. And then finally I got it out all off key. And afterwards, they all came over to me and congratulated how wonderful I spoke. It was so, Norman, that was so great, blah, 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 blah. I didn't look at the video at all, but it's kind of like a little kid who you're teaching them to ride a bicycle for the first time, and they're going to fall off over and over and over again. Oh, great job! Great.
And
Well,
still encourage. Yep.
get back on. Get back. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Got to keep on encouraging. Well, that encouragement led me to my very first song by myself in not in the choir. When I joined the cabaret group, it was a
Okay.
group, and we had the opportunity to sing one song by ourselves. And once again, all off key, not all, but a lot. I have to admit, a lot off key, which led to doing two songs within that cabaret group and then three songs. And then it was a little bit step by step by step by step. And then I saw other people in the group doing their own one man shows. And I said, well, hell,
Why not?
I want to do that.
Why not?
So there was a 2.5 year series of rehearsals for that one man show, and wow, two.
Is it still going on or has the run ended?
Well, I had two sold out performances over near Times Square, right? Right where all the Broadway shows are playing, right?
Yeah.
So that one was done, and now I'm creating my second one man show, which is going to debut on October 18th. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's fun, exciting.
That's amazing. And as you said, so much fun. Let me just say this, Norman, you're doing it right. You're doing it
Yeah,
right.
thank you,
You're
thank
really
you.
enjoying life. You're living the active life. You're keeping yourself engaged. I think that's fantastic. What a great example that you are to the rest of us. Thank you so much for that example and for joining us today. And we want to wish you the very best on everything upcoming, your races, your music, the cabaret show, everything. We just wish you the very best.
Wow, Kyle. Well, thanks so much. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you very much for having me to begin with. I just loved our conversation today. It was great, really great.
Well, we again, nothing but the best for you, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Just a couple of really quick things to wrap us up here. I just want to be honest that time is flying by, but did you know that we have well over 9,000 registered athletes already for the Huntsman World Senior Games? We're doing so well, but you want to be a part of it. Check out seniorgames.net. That's where you're going to find all the information, the dates, the venues, the rules, everything you need to know to be a part of the Huntsman World Senior Games. Again, seniorgames.net. The games run from October 5th through the 17th of 2026. Visit that website, put it on your calendar, plan to be a part, little baby steps, one thing at a time. Come and join us in St. George, Utah this year at the Huntsman World Senior Games. Next week's guest is Pat McEwen. He's a lifelong adventure seeker, from setting high school pole vault records and earning wrestling scholarships to becoming a marathoner himself. He's a Centurion Nordic skier, a cyclist, a mountaineer, a Class 5 whitewater paddler. He's done it all. Now in his 70s, Pat continues as a highly experienced paddle guide at Dig Paddle Sports and a lead guitarist in the River House Band. He's demonstrating that active aging is about continually pursuing new challenges and your passions. If you've enjoyed this show, and we hope that you've enjoyed this show, you can be sure to get all of the education and inspiration on the active life by subscribing wherever you find your favorite podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, Podcast Addict, or iHeartRadio, and there are others out there. You can find this as well as all of our previous shows also at that website, seniorgames.net. We'd love it if you take a moment and give us a rating, write a review. That can really help us spread the word about the show as well as about the games. Today's inspirational thought comes from the inestimable Joan Rivers, who once said, "I was smart enough to go through any door that opened." I think that sounds like good advice. Until next time, stay active.